From John O'Donohue's book, Celtic Wisdom. It's called Anam Cara, a book of Celtic wisdom. This is a friendship blessing. May you treasure your friends. May you be good to them, and may you be there for them. May they bring you all the blessings, challenges, truth, and light that you need for your journey. Well, our hearts open to one another as we become more and more aware of this wonderful human family, divine human family, and our sense of unity with it. And we can't be outside of it, but we can feel separate from it. And the Dalai Lama says, love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. So how are you and I contributing to the health of the individual families and the family of humankind? Well, first of all, we need to deepen our own individual sense of our union with this divine presence, with the beloved, that spirit that is everywhere present, that brought us into being out of itself and wants to have a wonderful time by means of this beautiful instrumentation. Each of us is required. We're here very much on purpose. And as I do my own inner work, I'm finding that it becomes easier to connect on a deep and loving and authentic level with others. You know, Jesus said, your enemies shall be of your own household. I'm not talking about your parents, your children, your brothers and sisters, your spouses at all. This is where we get to do our work, right within ourselves. This is where we get to look to see, what do I really need to transform in my own subjective consciousness? Things I'm probably not even aware of. Some of them I am, but I'm just trying to pretend like I'm not really that way. Well, we are kind of really that way from time to time, which is so wonderful because we have the power to change it. We have the power to look to see, you know, what is really going on within me that I'm ready to take a look at, to be brave and courageous enough to transform. So we start with the family within us. I learned many years ago that the beautiful prayer of St. Francis is really about doing my inner work. It's about this whole community within me. You know, you all have a family within you. We need to start there, I think. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Like, let's have these little conflictive ideas and feelings and the warring that can go on within me. Let's lift it to a sense of peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. I don't like to acknowledge this, but people sometimes have hateful feelings within them. Did you notice? And hateful actions. I really need to share this before we go on, and that is our beloved Reverend Dr. Edward Rion in Santa Rosa is right in the middle of a raging fire. Santa Rosa and that whole area, raging fires. Southern California, raging fires. And when I see the news, Edward can't have his celebration this morning. His whole area, including his own center, had to be evacuated. Believe me, I know this beautiful soul, and he's lifting hearts, minds, and consciousness, and so are all his people wherever they are right now. But, you know, my country of origin, California, is on fire. And people are losing things, and there's a lot that's going on. And just outside of Dallas, another mass shooting, and people getting killed and harmed, and what should be a fun celebration. These things, I say to you sometimes, please don't look at the news before you go to bed. And I mean that. Don't you want a good night's sleep? But I think we need to be aware of what's going on in order to realize it's a call to prayer. When we see and read and hear what's happening, it's a call to prayer. And all of the ministers that I know of are very much in prayer with Edward, with all of the things that are going on in California, outside of Dallas, in the world itself. It's a call to prayer. So as I'm looking to see what I need to transform within myself, I know where there is hatred, let me sow love. Because some of the hateful things that are going on in the world can only be healed with enough love. So I want to start by healing anything within me that feels like hatred. And I want to sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Whether I've had anything to do with harming that person or that situation or not, if it's alive within me, I want to do the pardoning. I want to do the forgiving. Forgivening, that's a new word. I expect you all to step right into that and do some forgivening. That's very much up for us. There's a lot of forgiveness that needs to take place. And it isn't always easy, but I need to start with myself and forgive anything that I may have done or said or not done or not said, in order to clear the way to become a better and clearer instrument for the divine. Where there's doubt, let me sow faith. People are afraid of a lot of things right now. Have you noticed that? Things are taking place that are frightening to people, that are confusing to people. Sometimes it's just a little unrest. We bring faith to the fear. We start with the fears we find within our own subconscious and conscious minds and bring a greater measure of faith. And we can share that with each other as well. I may have shared with you that years ago I visited a woman in the hospital who said, I'm just out of faith. I have no faith at all. I'm really afraid. And I said, I have enough for both of us. Let me give you some of mine. And she relaxed and accepted it and had a beautiful healing. We need to encourage one another, but we need to start by encouraging ourselves. There may be some fear within me. I need to bring a greater faith. And how do I do that? Except to remember that I am the beloved in whom God is well pleased. That all the doors are opening for greater good for me, greater peace of mind, beautiful demonstrations as I remember who I am. Where there's darkness, light. Well, the light is infinite and eternal. If we're in a little darkness, it's because we have covered our own eyes. Or something seems to have covered them for us. We're the ones who can open them up again and begin to see that beautiful illuminating presence that loves and guides and supports us. I start with myself with that. Whatever the dark places may be where I begin to get a little concerned and think that those Halloween costumes are real. Saw a really cute cartoon, thank you very much for sending that, where the kids are coming to trick or treat, and here's death with its, hood and the whole thing, and here's this sweet little old lady giving out candy bars, and death is saying, "No, I'm not trick or treating. This is not a costume. I'm here to get your soul." And he says, "Oh, full-size candy bars." We can change the environment by bringing something sweet to it. Let's bring some sweetness to ourselves so that we can bring more of that goodness to others. And change the darkness to light. Where there's despair, hope. That's one of my granddaughter's names, Hope. And hope is wonderful. I mean, my granddaughter. And the sense of it, the feeling of it, the activity of it, the energy of it is wonderful because it's so much better than despair. But it's a step up to knowing, to absolute confidence. I hope I can. I think I can. I know I could. I did it. And that comes from allowing the inner confidence to be revealed to us so that we can share that confidence with others. Where there's sadness, joy. Oh, there's sadness. And I am finding that when I'm feeling sadness because of something that may be going on near me or something that I'm hearing about or reading about, I don't want to pretend that I'm not feeling sad in that instant. I will let the tears flow. And I will invite the divine presence of infinite love to wash over me. Wash over me, and to change that sadness to joy. Because, as you know, joy is one of the main attributes, the 7 attributes of God. Light, love, life, peace, power, beauty, and joy. And do you know, I'm sure you've experienced it yourselves, I certainly have, that you can experience that underlying joy right in the middle of a sense of sadness. Absolutely, because it's infinite, it is eternal, it's changeless, whereas the sadness comes and goes. I was sad yesterday, I'm not sad today. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Actually, that is not true. I wasn't sad yesterday, I was happy all day long. But this is, at times, we have different emotions. And underneath that is an infinite presence of joy. So we can tap into it. When we tap into it, other people feel it because everything is energy, isn't it? If we're feeling the energy of sadness, you know how people really want to flock around us and be with us. Except here, in places where we are a family, it's wonderful to just open our arms to each other when we see that someone's feeling sad. And invite that wonderful healing presence of divine love to wash over all of us. It's so healing, it's so beautiful. And in a twinkling of an eye, things can change. O Divine Master, grant that I may seek not so much to be consoled as to console. When we are allowing that divine presence to flow through us as the instrumentations of the divine that we are, we're not looking to gather anything into ourselves. We're radiating out from the very divine center within us. And other people are touched and lifted by that. To understand, to be understood as to understand. I desire to understand. Seek first to understand, right? That's a beautiful adage to live by. Especially when if we hear something that doesn't sound pleasant or something that we begin to take personally, which of course we don't do around here, right? 4 agreements, don't take anything personally. Be impeccable with your word, first of all. Don't make assumptions, but always do your best, and always do your best. But if we hear something that we might begin to take personally, because guess what? We're human as well as divine. Okay, it's okay. It's wonderful to be human. Let's celebrate our humanness and the foibles, all of them. And one of the most important things I've learned to do in my life is to laugh at myself and my foibles. Anybody here got foibles? From time to time. I want to seek first to understand and then to be understood. And seek not so much to be loved as to love. Don't you know how juicy this is? When you let that center of love within you just move out and touch and bless people you've never even met before, people you're walking around with and don't even speak the same language of, Just love. Just love. And when we do, this energy again shifts and changes, and people smile and begin to play with you. And it's a wonderful experience, and it all has to begin within, for it's in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying to self that we're born to eternal life. It's in moving away from the ego self and moving into the great oneness that we live our authentic selves. And we connect with others in that same way too, in our beautiful human families. We want to bring to light what's ready to be healed. We want to let this divine love wash over it and through it and transform it, come into unity with our authentic self. When was the last time you had a conversation with your authentic self? It's like you say or you do something that you know is not in principle, or it's not really caring, or it's not really how you wish to live your beautiful divine life. That's a time for some self-forgiveness. I like to do that too. I forgive myself for all that I have done or not done. I love myself as God loves me. The beloved is expressing through me now. Make it a sweet, affirmative experience in forgiving ourselves. We're opening up the channels through which the divine life and the infinite love can express more effectively. I like coming into unity with my authentic self. And I'll say, okay, this isn't me. Less of me, more of thee. Let me be who I truly am. Let me express the divinity which is my intention and the divine intention for me by surrendering to divine guidance. One of the most beautiful ways I think we can enter into our divine expression of authentic life is through humility. Now that's not something religious scientists hear very often, is it? There was this wonderful, I don't know how wonderful it was, but silly song many years ago that we used to hear. I love myself. and we should love ourselves, but this one was more about, oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way, right? And that's cute, and it's funny, and there's some truth to realizing there is a divine perfection within us all that we want to honor and celebrate. But humility is a beautiful door through which we can just open our hearts to our greater self, and certainly to others. I want to feel my wholeness. Don't you want to feel your wholeness? Bringing all of these elements from within ourselves together and realize that the divine human self is a beautiful thing, and we can celebrate. We can celebrate this whole family within ourselves. This beautiful integration that takes place when we surrender to Spirit and say, I just raise all of this up. I just let the divine love wash over what needs to be healed and transformed. And I am whole. And then we can look at each other and see the divine wholeness there as well. Every false sense of separation dissolves then into Spirit's love. Because every sense of separation and detachment and abandonment, or all those other things that human beings feel from time to time, all dissolve into Spirit's love when we willingly share it with each other. There's one life. That life is God's life. That life is my life. That life is your life. That life is the life of all sentient beings now. People feel lonely. You and I have probably felt lonely once or twice in our lives. And that happens when we feel detached from our source. How can you feel lonely when you're floating around in the great heart of God, where we all live and move and have our being? Because we forgot. That's all. We forgot. And then we feel separate from one another when we feel separate from Source. We want to bring it back together. So here's what's so. The divine presence is always and forever eternally available for us to experience consciously. It's a matter of remembering. We journey together then in confidence and in gratitude. I think everyone is pretty familiar with the story of the geese. I want to remind us of that today. When you see geese flying in a V formation, I saw that just yesterday, which reminded me about this. You might consider what science has discovered as to why they fly that way. How many of you already know this? Can I tell it again? Okay, good, thanks. As each bird flaps its wings, it creates an uplift for the bird immediately following. By flying in V formation, the whole flock adds at least 71% greater flying range than if each bird flew on its own. People who share a common direction and sense of community can get where they're going more quickly and easily because they are traveling on the thrust of one another. When a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and resistance of trying to go alone, and quickly gets back into formation to take advantage of the lifting power of the bird in front. If we have as much sense as a goose, we will stay in formation with those people who are headed the same way we are. When the head goose gets tired, it rotates back in the wing and another goose flies point. It is sensible to take turns doing demanding jobs, whether with people or with geese flying south. Geese honk from behind to encourage those up front to keep up their speed. We need to encourage one another. Turn around and look at each other and honk each other. Honk. Good, that's it. Didn't that feel good? Don't you feel encouraged? What messages do we give when we honk from behind? Finally, and this is important, when a goose gets sick or is wounded by a gunshot and falls out of formation, 2 other geese fall out with that goose and follow it down to lend help and protection. They stay with the fallen goose until it's able to fly or until it dies, and only then do they launch out on their own or with another formation to catch up with their group. If we have the sense of a goose, we will stand by each other like that. What's that?
Let's honk again.
And let's honk. Go ahead, honk each other. Honk. I want you to feel so loved and so embraced and so important and so encouraged that we continue to keep the sense of a goose and hang together and grow together and do our work together in this magnificent community. Will you say with me, I accept and cherish myself.
I accept and cherish myself.
I honor and treasure those precious to me. I welcome dear ones into my life. And so, my beloveds, beginneth our lesson.